Should be working.
We should have something appear in the offline. I'll just make sure the audio's off. That's the point I was trying to make before. If you look at the dashboard,
I've got it turned off now.
It's a delayed version.
Oh yeah.
Of us.
Yep.
So turn the audio off if we're checking it. I'm looking at it now. I'm looking at a stunning design logo motif that's delicately animated through lighting and bevel and shadows. That took me a grand total of
at least 15 minutes to do.
Dan, I'm a professional. It took me 14 minutes to do. But we're live.
Awesome.
On the YouTubes. Welcome to the world, the Voyage of the Geek, rantings of one Dan Miller, Dave Scotland, and mark the time, 7:14 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard, this Tuesday, the 19th of July, 2016.
And be warned, your truth mileage may vary.
Spurious facts ahead. So we might as well show people our windswept and interesting facades.
Visage.
Here we go.
All right.
So this is the Voyage of the Geek, the cockpit, shall we say?
Yes, exactly.
As we voyage through all things geek. So you've jumped the gun, but I say we go with it. I'm really keen to see and to have you explain the plan ahead for our show mapping extravaganza.
Extravaganza utility. So you want to get a bit meta.
Absolutely. Let me give us some. Let me give me some real estate.
All right. So
talk to me.
We've got Mindomo set up.
Mm-hmm.
So Mindomo, mind mapping software. So got a whole list of a bunch of crazy thought patterns sort of displayed here schematically about the Ghostbusters 2016. So, we can maneuver around and have a look at all of these different topics. We can have a bit of a discussion. We can open up these things, and there's little things inside, and then we can go off and view those type of things and see what where that conversation leads us. And then this can be made available to people later on.
So this is the system that you're going to use and manage for all of the information that we discuss and come across throughout the show, stuff for show notes and links, and this is an organic document that's going to grow over time, yeah?
Yeah, that's the idea.
I rate it. I think it's such a cool idea.
And we can slowly build it. And like a crazy mind map, it'll go in all sorts of different directions. It may bud off and branch in different things, and we can zoom in on areas and so that'll kind of guide our discussion, and you can go back and review it.
Yeah, and hopefully down the track, people can input feedback about sections that can be added and directions to and really make it an organic cloud of information that people can tap into,
because it's got links and everything in there, so people can contribute to it. So it's awesome.
I think it's a really cool way to navigate a show as well. I'd love down the track, when we have more time to spend on it, to even put time codes in about certain things. When you click on a point in the cloud in the Mindomo space, it's a link that'll take you to that point in the show.
It's got a mapping thing in there that you can create a kind of a moving presentation that takes you from point A to point B.
Yeah, sick.
And moves you around. So those things could all be linked up. It should be good fun.
Awesome. So we might as well tell anyone that happens to be listening or come across the show the sort of thing, the sort of format that we're just going to follow, and how loose that is, and how deliberately loose it's going to be as well. But there is a system there, and it might help, I think, for people to understand what where we're coming from, and what we're interested in, and those sorts of things. So, how would you sum it up?
Voyage of the Geek, I think, is our best summary of what it is. So, just a bit of an investigation into, I don't know, things that we like and enjoy, things that we think that are interesting, inspiring, curious, Could be tech-related stuff. Could be pop culture, movies, games-related stuff. Could be the background to how those things are created and made, and the people that create and make those things.
Yep. And it's probably important to qualify our perspective a little bit too. We're from the industry. We work in the games and film industry in post-production and production. We're 3D guys. We're artists by trade, and we work now in the education area of digital art. And so I guess that's going to help people understand where we come from when we talk about what we're going to be talking about.
Yeah.
We're probably not your average audience member. So we see things a little different. And we hope that people are going to find that interesting and compelling, and that's why we're sort of doing it. But above all, the main reason we're getting together once a week is to waffle at each other and to have interaction with humans, because digital artists, we lock ourselves in dark places. And go down rabbit holes of intrigue into the creation of cool shit.
Yes, that's right.
And we forget to talk to other humans.
That's right.
And it's important. So this is a way for us to force ourselves to do it.
Exactly.
And have some scotch.
So we've got some scotch here. This might be a staple on the show.
Absolutely. So it's my turn. And by the way, that's unless you're still going. Tell me if I want to know how flushed out this is. Is that the surface of? Did you lay that out as an example to that level, or did you go deeper?
No, there's deeper, but it's not a thousand steps deeper. So it's a good one or two steps deeper underneath all of this.
That's awesome. And the fact that you've chosen Ghostbusters 2016, that's going to come back later, because I've got something very special to show you.
All right, okay.
We've had some discussions in the past of the failings of not necessarily the movie, but the trailer.
Exactly. Yeah. Now I was actually, because we haven't talked about the topics we're going to talk about. So I was actually a little bit curious as to whether we've both picked the same topic or how interconnected the topics are going to be.
I've got a very unique perspective on the subject matter, but also on our conversations prior as well. Okay. So you're going to find it very special.
Okay.
But I'm going to leave it till last.
Okay.
But I think it's great that you've done that, and we're going to bookend the show by coming back to Ghostbusters 2016. I haven't been keeping an eye on it.
Okay, so this was going to be my first question.
Cool.
Have you been keeping an eye on it?
No, I haven't. What's it doing in the box office? Do we know?
46 million.
Ooh.
So the answer to that question is not too bad. Whether that's the rubbernecking the car crash that everybody's like, what in the world is that?
I don't know. They must have spent a heap. How much did they spend, do you reckon?
It's over 140, something like 140 million.
Let me see on our old IMDb.
I was checking out some various sites on it, and I think back in the day the regular Ghostbusters was 80 million.
And adjusted. It'd be really cool to see the adjusted figure.
I don't know if that was adjusted or not. There was just a figure 80
I'd love
million.
to see it, where it sits in the list.
Yeah.
Because every man and his dog saw the original Ghostbusters. It must have done well.
Yeah. Well, I don't know figures on how well that did.
Was it a cult? Was the original Ghostbusters successful at the box office?
No, I don't know either.
It's comedy. Chances are it might have made 30 million at the box office. And then cleaned up in the domestic market, in the home market.
The long tail. Well, yeah, all I know is at the moment Ghostbusters 2016 is apparently 40 plus million on its first week, which doesn't seem too bad.
It's not good, not in this day and age.
Well, like I said, they spent maybe 150, 60, 70, 80 million on it, but it's not opened worldwide.
Yeah. It's in a unique space, I guess, because they don't often spend that type of money on a comedy. It's a comedy from start to finish, isn't it? Like, it's a comedy. It's not a something else.
Well, that's
funny,
something that we can debate.
Or is it sci-fi that's funny?
Well, no, that's what we can debate, right? Whether it is a comedy or whether it's sci-fi that's funny. Maybe go back to the original. How would you describe the original?
Sci-fi that's funny. I think it's sci-fi full of funny guys.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
This is actually a really important topic for what I've got here.
Yeah.
Because it touches on a lot of things. Look, as you can see here, there's this gigantic web of stuff, and I've only just scratched the surface on the possible discussions you could have just about Ghostbusters, right?
Yeah.
One of the discussions is, what the hell are we talking about here in terms of what's the genre of Ghostbusters?
Yeah.
And what's the genre of the second one,
I would put it in comedy. I'm going to stick with comedy with sci-fi tendencies.
Because... people are going to compare the first one and the 2016, and they're going to ask, is it the same genre
as the original?
Yeah. And there are people that are going to argue that, yes, it is, and people that are going to argue that perhaps, no, it isn't. But that all hinges on what are we talking about here?
Yeah. Like what's the control?
Yeah,
where's
that's
the control? Because in theory, you can't compare them to one another.
A bit like apples and oranges.
You have to have a third control, I know exactly.
No, I think...
Or at least parameters that you're working to.
I think the rule is that it's the original that's the control.
Yeah.
Now, they use this in, like, archaeology, right?
Yeah.
You dig up something out of the ground, right?
Yeah.
And it's a bunch of bones.
Yeah.
And you call it a Dave Scotlandosaurus Rex.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And then that becomes the primary... I don't know what they call it. That becomes the primary... example of Dave Scotlandosaurus Rexes. So if somebody digs up something else and they think, hang on, this looks a bit like a Dave Scotlandosaurus Rex.
Yeah.
And then they can compare it to the original, it has to be either the same as the original or it's not.
Yeah.
Right? And that one's the control. Right?
Yeah.
So I think we
And
should
someone has
call
to make that call. Should we make that call right now?
that the original Ghostbusters is indeed the control. I think it has to be. Right?
Not Ghostbusters 2.
No, the original one.
Because they're chalk and cheese, those two.
Yeah.
The first and the second.
Oh, okay, yeah. Those two. Are they?
Yeah, chalk and cheese. The second one, terrible.
We're talking... Well, no. We're not talking about quality or box office.
Not the new one.
I'm talking... No. This is the second one, right?
With the guy in the painting.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm talking about theme.
Yeah.
What is it that makes Ghostbusters?
Yeah.
Right?
I know.
Because this is important.
Yeah.
Because this also ties into things like... We haven't really got into the nitty-gritty of what Ghostbusters is, but it ties into things like the Phantom Menace.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Now, if you go and watch...
I love the link. Go for it. Now you've got to tie that link together.
All right. The way that I'm going to tie this together is that George Lucas, when he's making the Phantom Menace, if you watch the director's cut or if you watch the Red Letter Media review of it, he's always going through and he's always talking about how that one and the original one rhyme. He uses the word rhyme.
Yes,
stanzas.
Rhyming stanzas.
Right? Is that how it's used?
That's a Lucasism.
A Lucasism. A Lucasade.
Is a rhyming stanza.
Okay, so it's a rhyming sentence. So he's always saying, look, this is how the things rhyme. This is how they rhyme. Okay, that's cool. But just because something is the same as something else doesn't mean it's in the same genre.
Yeah.
Okay, so just because it's got lightsabers in this movie and there's lightsabers in that movie, they're the same. They're both lightsabers, and there's both people with cloaks. But are they? Does that make and how much of that is required to make it the same genre?
Yeah.
All right.
I know where you come from.
And what I'm actually, and the further step that I'm actually leading to is that there might be something deeper, right? That the genre is more than the sum of its parts.
Yeah.
Right? And so you can't just put a movie and chuck a few lightsabers in there and a Tatooine or two, and suddenly you've got Star Wars.
Yeah.
There's something else. It's the way that you put it together might be
the
deal.
Is that not exactly? Have you not just described a dish created by a chef?
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
It's the balance of ingredients.
Yeah.
You put one of those things out of whack. And the thing is too, just like a dish, there are certain ingredients that have very small tolerance. Yes. And then there's other ingredients that have massive tolerance.
Right.
Now, if you go dabbling in areas and throwing ideas around like they're bricks, when they're supposed to be little nuances, that's what I see a lot in film. I see, especially young filmmakers that don't quite get it yet. They will, but when people look at it's like 3D, like when you're trying to create something, some of the settings need settings between 1 and 0. Other settings, you can ramp it up to 25,000.
Yeah.
And in that range is minimal sort of change.
Yeah.
Whereas the difference between 0.5 and 0.75
Is big.
in a noise map or something like that is crazy. It's and I think in film it's the same. And it's the real filmmakers, and these are rare people because somehow they work it out on their own most of the time, is knowing which dials to go and which ones to go. You know what I mean?
Yeah, put up to 11 versus...
Yeah. Because some will allow you without breaking the rules
Yeah.
and create something never seen before, and others will, you can't. If you go hammering that thing with that much force, you'll break it. It's supposed to be a nuance. It's supposed to be shallow.
So there's a bunch of balance that you can have to keep your sequel in tune with your, original.
How?
Well, there's a bunch of balance. That's what we've been talking about.
That's
11, or whether you're allowed to pump up.
That's the trick.
Yeah, that's the trick. You have to do that.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we live in a life where the same human that learnt how to tweak the box for 3 movies fucked it up for his next 3 movies. Like, how could you get it so wrong? How have you tweaked those things? And trust me, next time you're watching any of those prequel movies of the Star Wars universe, you'll see instantly what I'm talking about. You've tweaked that too hard, and that there should be a nuance. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And it's the chef ingredients thing. You didn't understand the balance.
Well, that's another discussion that we could have about whether Star Wars, actually, the prequels, are not whether they're good movies, not whether you like them, but whether they are correctly placed within the genre of Star Wars.
And what is the genre of Star Wars? I have this discussion with students all the time. Is it sci-fi or fantasy? Because there's a raging community on the internet with 2 camps. For me, it's fantasy. There's magic in Star Wars.
Yes, there's definitely
magic's fantasy. As soon as you have magic, it's fantasy.
Unfortunately, to answer your question, I need to know the definition of sci-fi and the definition of fantasy.
Well, fantasy to me is magic, and I don't. As long as that's the thing, as long as some kind of magic exists, because you can have trolls
because
in sci-fi.
Because in sci-fi,
if they're a product of evolution,
so it's just the mechanics is different. Like you can go back in time in sci-fi, but you can go back
time
in
machine.
time in
Time Machine, is that fantasy or sci-fi?
Well, it's a common thing to both.
Well, you got to call it.
You still have a magic wizard who'll go back in time to you just.
But there's no magic in Time Machine. There's science. He used science to go back there, and he didn't break physics, I guess.
Okay, well, where I'm leading to is that I don't know that that's the good definition. That's a good definition of what sci-fi is versus what fantasy is.
Okay, well, because Star Trek is sci-fi.
Okay, but remember that
because it's based on our science.
Okay, so but wait for my point is that you can go back in time in a sci-fi, but you can go back in time in a fantasy.
Yeah.
Right. So the same thing
could be non-linear.
It's just that the mechanism by which it happens.
That's right.
Is different.
One's based on science. One is boogie. It's magic. It's like call the spirits and with the bones and the green light.
But there's very subtle difference between that because magic. The point about magic is that there's no explanation for magic.
Yeah.
Right. That's the point. Right.
Magic is a name we give something we don't understand.
Exactly. But in a sci-fi film. They just throw at you pseudoscientific gobbledygook,
yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
The neutrino paranormal inversion index caused me to go back in time.
Yep.
And there's no explanation.
Yeah.
So it's functionally equivalent to magic.
Yeah.
All right.
I told you I sat next to Harve Bennett.
No.
I didn't tell you.
No.
You know Harve Bennett, one of the early writers in the sci-fi in Star Trek?
Oh,
Next Generation and stuff.
Where was this?
He sat next to him on a plane.
Oh, cool.
And one of the things he said about, because it very quickly he realised that I was interested in the production side of things, and he said the trick that people break all the time, but the trick to sci-fi, you only get a chance to break one rule or introduce one thing. Mm-hmm. In Star Trek, it's antimatter.
Okay.
When you have antimatter, you have a power source that's strong enough to project you through the universe at faster than light speed, but also have enough power to generate, to call upon when reproducing a data stream of a person from point A to point B. So all of the science that makes Star Trek work is one thing.
Yes, but that's the
That's the magic.
That's
the magic.
That's the force.
That's
right.
That's right.
That's
Yeah.
the antimatter force.
But what makes it science fiction is that what makes it good science fiction is it's one thing. As soon as you start to heap more things on it that don't exist in our science, there's a problem. And you start to get convoluted, and you start to get in. It starts to become wizardry. It starts to become fantasy.
Okay.
And I instantly knew what he was talking about because I've seen the shit that some people create when they don't understand. No, you have to choose your battle with the science you bend to become good science fiction. Do you know what I mean? If you start making up laws.
Okay,
here,
okay.
There,
no, I see what you're saying.
And here's a new element.
All right.
And here's, you know what I mean?
Okay, you can't lay on the bullshit too thick.
Yeah.
Obviously
I think in
thick.
Star Trek it's some sort of crystal.
But people expect the bullshit in a fantasy.
Yeah.
Is what you're saying, right?
Well, the bullshit is expected, but also tolerated to a much higher degree.
Or you've got no way to measure the bullshit in a fantasy.
Yeah.
It can be the ring of whatever and the magic gem of this and that, and you've got no way to tell whether that's better or worse. But if they're talking about neutrino plasmonoids, you know that's kind of bullshit.
And when the guy comes in the third act and he says, that magic only works when you have a purple jumper on.
Yeah. Then
and
you think,
like,
fair enough.
Like, I can't trust any of this shit now.
But you can also believe it a little bit because you're like, purple jumper, magic, okay, cool.
Well, whatever. I'm in. But if I'm in the third act, I've already invested.
Yeah.
And so I'll tolerate more in the third act. And look to the Lord of the Rings and you'll see that it's actually very earthy and not much going on. But you're on board because the characters are pretty cool, pretty interesting. And then it gets ridiculous. Like they have to, because he's a linguist and loves the language aspect of it, he has to call everything weird shit. And it makes it so... It's challenging, and I know why people have such a visceral connection to reading the book.
Yeah,
You can always tell a reader from a non-reader.
Yeah,
because there's this connection. And I know why. It's because you waded through that shit like week old gravy, man. You came out the other end, and you sort of you survived the language, and still understood the narrative. Mm-hmm. And you deserve that credit, my friend.
Well. You hear stories about Tolkien, I don't know, bragging to his friends or whatever, coming up, doing this one-upmanship with the language and stuff. All right, so
yes,
I've got another angle for you.
Yeah. Are we on Ghostbusters?
No, we're...
Well, listen, before we leave this, let me quickly show you the numbers down here. It was... Where is it? Down here. A $144 million estimated budget.
There you go. I was
opening weekend is $46 million.
Well,
I thought we were in the past the second weekend. At which point, $46 million would have been pretty disappointing, because even a mid-range sort of successful film will have enough word of mouth to actually usually get slightly more numbers in the second weekend. So I would expect probably.
Well, we'll see whether it holds its own. That's the trick.
Anything else coming out at the moment?
I don't know. Yeah, cool. Look, before we leave that topic, is I've got to give you another definition of sci-fi.
Yep.
Which is a vision of the future.
Usually.
It doesn't mean it's set in the future. It's a vision of what the future could be like.
Absolutely.
An exploration of the future.
Like sci-fi.
And that's in the way that a fantasy is not really like that. That's why sci-fis have things that we can imagine but haven't invented but expect that we could invent.
Yeah.
That's why the bullshit level has to be within tolerances.
And what a paradigm when the future, according to Back to the Future, is now our past.
Freaky. Yeah.
So therefore sci-fi is not always a view of the future. It's the view of a future.
True.
Because our future's proven that there's no hoverboard. And I've been waiting for that shit forever. Mind you, we're close, man. Have you seen the hoverboards they have come up with?
Yeah.
They rely on
the metal
conduction. That's close.
You know those things blow up, don't you?
Oh, do they?
Yeah.
Are they battery?
Yeah.
Okay, there you go. Batteries are like
tins of petrol.
well, they're super compressed energy
They're
into
super
really
compressed
yeah.
petrol.
That's right.
That's why they're in metal things,
Yeah.
and if you stab them, they will
Blow your hand off, maybe your arm, and then maybe your upper torso.
they will make fire.
Yeah.
It's
It's super dangerous. The battery world we're about to go into, I'm hoping they're working out how to, because they're about to stick a dirty big battery in everybody's home over the next 10 years.
Yeah, right.
Because battery tech is like renewable energy and
Why
battery.
don't they have batteries in your house already?
They're distributing now. Like the, I got a feeling it's Musk. It might be his company, or it might be just a totally unrelated company. But essentially, the battery tech has come so far that it is now viable to have one of these big battery packs in your house, and you're renewable off the sun and wind and whatever you want. These battery packs are so good. It's always been about how hard it is to store the energy, because you're selling it for a really cheap price relative to what you're buying it for. It's not stacked in your favour, right? But if you can store it, that means you don't have to buy anything. You're completely self-sufficient, and that means that I can have every device on in the house, and I'm not going to suffer from that, because these batteries are pretty impressive.
You might be able to capture some of your own wasted electricity in heat and then store it in a battery.
Yeah,
You know, hook your bats in the roof up to the battery, so they're collecting the heat and putting it back in the battery or something or other.
I reckon we've made it energy-wise when someone has worked out how to put photovoltaic, if we're still using that as our solar process. I'm not sure. We might have changed our materials since the last time I had a look. But as soon as someone works out how to put it in paint,
Yeah, right.
and then all you do is bring that surface back to some collection point, then you just paint every roof, don't you? You paint every roof tile.
Well, you've seen the thing on the solar freaking roadways that came out recently, and everybody was going absolutely bananas about solar freaking roadways.
What's run by the solar for the roadway?
So this is one of these GoFundMe campaign type things that took off like a meme, right? And it just sort of rocketed into the stratosphere, and everybody was like, yeah, this is fucking genius, right? Solar freaking roadways. So the idea, the pitch is, what if we made every single road into a solar panel? And then we'd collect a shit ton of electricity.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so everybody went like, hell yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And everybody went, this is fucking genius.
Yeah.
The only problem is that, when people who actually know about electricity and solar panels, they're like,
Yeah.
this is fucking ridiculous. You idiots.
And people get so excited.
Yeah, they get so excited. You sort of tier one level thinking, it's like, yes, if we coated the moon with solar panels, that would be even better.
That sentence has been said, my friend. Trust me. And it's probably been said by some wannabe politician that got shut down and run out of the caucus for suggesting such stupidity. Yeah, it's a little harder than that. We're a ways off that. But I'd love to see a snapshot of where we'd be in a couple of years, because sci-fi's let me down dismally, all the way from the Jetsons to this, to our current state.
Now, you see, this is what sci-fi is about, right? This is what I reckon it's about.
Yeah.
It's preparing you. It's preparing side. Look, this is what stories are about. We'll probably get into this more and more as we talk generally, but this is what stories are about generally, is they're about you, Dave.
Yeah.
Oh, shit. They're about you. They're about us. They're about society. They're about humanity. That's what they're about. Yeah. And it's how they work and how you work in it. And that's why, that's why I say that sci-fi is giving us a vision of the future, because what if there are solar freaking roadways and hoverboards and shit?
Yeah.
What are we going to do?
Yeah.
And then somebody dreams up, well, you know what you could do? You could go down the shops and buy your milk on a solar panel hoverboard.
Yeah.
And then people tell stories to each other and they explain it and they flesh out different options and they decide whether it's good or bad or right or wrong. And then if they do happen to invent solar freaking hoverboard roadways, we're a little bit prepared with some ideas about what we're going to do and how we're going to govern that stuff when we eventually arrive there.
Absolutely. Well, sci-fi has led to sci more often than not.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Like your mobile phone looks remarkably like a tricorder or some sort of communication
I'm sure
device.
there are actual example where somebody's dreamed up something and then that's probably inspired somebody to actually go and do
Absolutely.
it. Absolutely.
And I've seen plenty of shows dedicated to that subject of art that has driven invention and ideas. And Star Trek's a big source of that stuff.
But I think the thing about now, I'm not up to, your truth mileage may vary on this one, but I don't know what those tricorder thingamies used to do in Star Trek, but I suspect they don't do as much as my mobile phone does.
Well, the only thing that a tricorder does that your mobile phone doesn't is scan your area and give you a readout of everything in it.
Well, somebody's just got to invent that app. That won't take long.
You know that. You're going to be able to just wave your phone around a scenario and the app is going to recognize all those things. Tell you who manufactured them, what year they were
Pokemon Go
made.
2.
That's tricorder, isn't it?
Yeah, Pokemon Go 2 is when they put the tricorder in there.
Well, what is the process of going looking for information on the internet? That's really easy to replicate as an AI process if you give it parameters. Well, the parameters are visual. You scan your surroundings and those parameters visually, just like you can search via the contents of an image, right? That means you're searching for all the data related to, and you're running algorithms to assess, is that or is that piece of furniture from the 1950s or whatever that looks almost like it? Okay, where are the differences? And okay, it's that. Then it gives you all the information. We've got both those technologies right now. Just take somebody to tie those together.
And those type of things will happen. Those are just a natural progression for how things go.
That's your tricorder, right? So yes, your phone is a tricorder. Just we're waiting for the guy to create the audio.
To get the try happening.
To create the app. I want to play you something.
Okay.
Just a bit of audio to start with.
Should have put some audio. Oh, I like it already.
What you just heard is the opening music when you placed your 20 cent or dollar or wherever you were in the world. For me, it was 20 cents. Into a arcade computer game called Gyrus.
I think I remember that quite well. 20 cents and all.
Oh, and it
down
was
the shops.
It was the only computer game of its time, and since, except for one or two examples, where you didn't just travel along the bottom, you went around.
Yeah, that's right.
Like the whole time I'm flying towards something in a tunnel, and the enemies are coming out of that tunnel at me.
It's like Space Invaders, but curved.
But in Z depth.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
And this is what it looked like. It's really cool that I found this video because this notice it goes for 17 minutes. Now, of course, we're not going to look at 17 minutes of it. But we've got a bit of full screen
font
here
as well. Everything used that font.
It's. I mean,
must come on the processor or something.
The sound too, it would be the most primitive computer sounds. Because we're talking here 1980.
Is this the original sounds?
1986. Yeah, this is a recording of the game, but it could be from a retro resupply.
Okay.
Like a is it MAME?
Yeah.
It could be a MAME.
But even MAME,
But I would say it's the same instruments.
Yeah, no, MAME's still running the actual game. It's just running it on a faster processor and whatever.
And so you'd clear the level, and then you'd go through to the next thing, right? Mm-hmm. And so this is a normal level, but watch what happens when you clear out that level. This is the special stage. You'd go through to the planet, right, and then you'd get a special stage, and it was one of those button mash things, you know, because you had to get all of them.
Oh yeah.
And you only had a second chance, and if you didn't get them all, because you get the bonus.
What do you get bonus? Is it just points? Is that what you get?
Yeah, you get an extra 1,000 points if you get them all before they disappear. It was insane, mate. And it was in our universe. So you start right out at Pluto and then you come in.
Yeah.
And it's all about trying to get to Earth, I think.
Yeah.
Right. I loved that piece of music.
Mm-hmm.
And I really love the fact that somebody has actually gone to the trouble of breaking it up in YouTube into the subsections of the track. So you had this opening section. Now, one of the reasons why I wanted this is as our opening music, because I love it. It's Bach, it's Fugue or Fugue,
Fugue,
Toccata and Fugue
Toccata and Fugue
in D minor. Yeah.
You know what Fugue is supposed to mean? You can play it forwards and backwards.
Oh, does it? Yeah. That's cool. So, and you can go right through this thing and see what each one of these subsections of the soundtrack are.
Yeah, that's awesome.
It's pretty cool, isn't it? And even these are drums only, and that would be in the primitive synth built into the hardware. Yeah. Pretty cool.
Oh yeah, I love this stuff.
Yeah.
A lot of the synths and stuff that I collect for live are analog synths, and a lot of the VSTs that I collect to go with it are from a group of people called Pure Magnetics.
Yeah.
Pure Magnetic, and they sample really old synths. So yeah, just love this stuff.
You'll love this, right?
Okay.
This is so far up your alley, right?
Yeah.
Because you, to qualify once again where we're coming from, you and I are both interested in electronic music. We produce it, we play with it, we love it, we're fascinated with it.
Mm-hmm.
But you love the systems that exist within it, and you'll love this. Watch this. So this is the rat hole I went down the other day trying to find this theme.
Yeah, so these are like visualization.
This is another way of looking at music. A very unique and entertaining way of essentially looking at the structure of music. It's a beautiful piece, right? And I love all music, right? I think there's good in all music, most of it. Some of it's, there's one or two bits, genres here and there that I don't think I'll ever work out.
Yeah.
But most music has moments, and man, as a period in time, the shit that these guys were turning out, listen to this. Especially when we start to get to
the visualization is so cool to explain what you're hearing, because it's a little bit, it's very difficult actually to pick out what you're actually hearing, because it all kind of melds together, which is one of the good points about music, of course, right?
Absolutely.
Is you hear it as a single thing, but trying to even train your ear to hear the little separate parts, be they instruments or voices or whatever. And this does it so well that you can, and you can see how it's kind of constructed, which is really cool. Like you said, I like the nuts and bolts of it, how it works.
It's beautiful, and it shows those chords as opposed to that top end. Like, look at this. It's so beautiful.
Yeah, like these are the chords here, right?
Yeah, yeah.
You can see him changing chord with each one, right?
Well, these are chords. The blocks are chords. The dots are this.
But I mean, they're in a chord.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
What I love about this is how many people in their life look at a sheet of music and say, no thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
If they were presented it like this, just as an alternative, and say, forget about that. That shit's been around for 4, 5, 6, 1,000 years, right? Listen, watch this. This is a modern day version.
Yeah.
Right? And
like you see this pattern, you can see patterns that
absolutely.
you can see what he's doing. It's very cool.
And that's what music, notational music on a page is. It's patterns, but you've got to show it some way.
Yeah.
And they worked out a way to show that using, all sorts of special iconography and things like that.
And the best they had was pens and paper.
Yeah. This is the YouTube version.
Yeah, that's right.
How cool is it?
I know, it's totally cool.
Now, this will get you salivating. I need to find, oh my Lord, this guy here, this Smarlin. Let's call him Smarlin. This is his website. And
Did he develop this thing, or does he
goes nuts. Check out check out this one. This is, notice they're all different sort of patterns. I'll give you an example of one of these ones, which is the circle sort of track one. And if I open it up, you'll see that in the description, he actually says what the graphics mean. Down here, I think there's even a link to a table. I don't have really the time to jump into it now, but he offers a table of exactly what these things are. Like I might have yes. This is a beautiful guitar piece, right? And so the strings and the colours are the fingers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So my question is how is he capturing this?
There's at least one way that I know that I could do it, and there's a plug-in for After Effects, and it's in the Trapcode suite, and it's called Sound Keys. And what it does is it takes audio as input, and it drives keyframe information from frequency. So I can actually drive keyframe information from high frequencies, low frequencies. Every chord, every note has its own frequency. And this thing you can actually dial in there. And then, of course, you could go back and polish it at the end. So you could it could be automated for about 80%. But he quotes, I didn't go too far down the rabbit hole, but I did see that he was quoting things like Music Machine and things like that, the visuals of the Music Machine. And I don't know whether that's a trance state that he gets in on a Sunday or that it's actually a piece of software. But I do know one way that I could do it. Okay. The fact that the lines are joined up, there's a piece of software I can use to do that.
I'd imagine
I think it's Nexus or something like that, but yeah.
You'd imagine it's coming off a MIDI, but I don't know.
It could be MIDI.
Yeah.
I didn't even think of MIDI.
But then you're in danger of having the MIDI being the final music on top.
Yeah.
There might be a hybrid method where you get the final piece of music, you turn it into a MIDI, provided it's kept in time, and then it uses the MIDI to drive the animation.
Yeah.
Well, then you plaster over top the real piece of music. But anyway.
This is his YouTube video, and I definitely think people should check it out. I love this picture that he's got here for his profile where it's the young him and the old him.
Oh, right, cool.
But yeah, there's some awesome stuff here. I won't open them up. This one here, you've got to have a look at, Dan. These are chords, and these are the fingers of the chords. And so when you stab a chord on the keyboard, it registers. But then when you change the chord, it's a different color. And so each chord has a different color, and you can see how the fingers actually get used across the chords. It's fantastic, man.
I'm pretty sure this site's got Stravinsky's Rite of Spring.
Have you seen a similar graphic?
I've seen it. It might be this guy.
Yeah. This one here I found really compelling. It sort of starts. This is the main one that he's got on his landing page, and it has these 3D faceted backgrounds. But he also has these, and when they so same piece of music, just a different graphic. And I love the way the scale animates.
Yeah.
Until it dissipates.
So that's kind of like the volume.
Well, it's the tail. What do they call that in the synthesis diagram? What is it called? The sustain.
Yeah, the sustain. Okay,
Yeah,
that's why I think it's coming off a MIDI thing.
It's cool, isn't it? And
Anyway.
by the time you get down here, it's more and more involved, because that faceted background starts to actually do some cool stuff, and so it's ever changing as it's going through. There's a little nudge to each one of them. But anyway, what I would definitely recommend to people, to anyone, is to check out his work. Smarlin, I think Stephen, there it is. It took me a little bit to sort of find his name, only to find that it was sitting right there the whole time. Stephen Malowski. Stephen Malinowski. There you go. Or Stefan, one of the two.
We should come back here one time in the future, because, there's another cool piece of music that'd be good to talk about, which is the Stravinsky's Rite of Spring.
So that was my
Pretty
that was my lead-in piece that I wanted to blow you away with, and I think sufficiently blew you away. I love, and in what we do all the time in the digital graphics, we learn a process over here, and then all of a sudden you realise that that's the same sort of process that drives this process over here. And those borrowing from that to understand this, to get a greater reward or payback, whatever, that's sort of what we do regularly, so we take it for granted. But that's a really visual way of understanding the bits, because so many people just hear the whole sum.
Yeah. Presenting something really complex in a really simple way. Yeah, that's very cool.
And a picture. What do you got? You got anything?
Well, we've still got Ghostbusters.
Oh yeah, I don't mind. You want to go back there? You have a, before you do. All right. Call this a segue. I found a very talented young artist, and it was completely by accident. And I've been preaching this stuff when I try to tell students that if you want to get a job, yes, you got to know all this shit, because they'll test you as soon as you walk in the door. But if you want to get recognised, that comes from a good idea, not from your artistic skill set. It's from your creative mind, and sometimes it'll come from somebody else, or conversation in passing, or whatever. This is a really good example of how to get noticed by a good idea.
I see what you mean by a segue. Well done.
This is a React video. But just watch it. Watch it for its nuance as an animated piece. Stunning and so simple. Look at his eyes. You can see him reading
It's a class 4
the
operation.
text.
It's okay. She seems peaceful. My name is Erin Gilbert, Doctor of Particle Physics. That stuff went everywhere, by the way, in every crack. Very hard to wash off.
We have dedicated our whole lives to studying the
You
paranormal.
can probably graph
Now
his
there's sightings
reactions.
all over the city. There are people out there that need our help.
I think somewhere in the world
Holtzman,
there's a
you're
guy
brilliant engineer.
or a couple that the reference was taken directly from their reaction to this trailer.
I was
We can
I was
provide
thinking
a-
that
I
it's
would.
probably got a mirror.
Yeah, if this was my animation task,
You guys are
I would
really
have done that.
smart about this science stuff, but I know New York, and I can borrow a car from my uncle.
You didn't disclose that the vehicle was going to be a hearse.
It's a Cadillac.
Let's go.
Let's go.
Did you want to?
Sorry, I'll let you.
Next time. Okay.
Someone is creating a device that amplifies paranormal activity.
Look, he's actually getting gradually angry.
Yeah.
Holtzman, come on.
The hat is too much, right? Is it the wig or the hat?
There's a bigger picture at hand here. These ghosts can possess the human form.
Oh, hell no, the devil is a liar! Get out of my friend, Ghost!
Ow, that's gonna leave a mark.
The power of pain compels you!
Ow!
So smart.
Perfect ending.
It's that is exactly what I've been preaching about to students the whole time. That's not rocket science. That's really easy to do. It's one character. You don't even need those as characters at the end there, right? It's one character. It's a very simple set. Not a lot going on. You could light the front of that character by driving the video from the trailer into the light as a light map. It's crazy simple, but look at the hit. Look at the numbers. 4 million people.
Just got to have a good idea.
4 million people have seen that, and trust me, this guy, Darren Wallace, and please check out his stuff. He's got some cool stuff. I don't have to. I don't want to go into any of it now. We may revisit. It could be. It could be something we come back on regularly. He's done a Star Wars parody where he's literally gone in and taken shots. I don't want to take too much of this. I'll mute it actually. Where he does this sort of stuff, and he's using VFX, and most of it's really good. Like most of it's pretty good. So he's doing the Disney thing.
Yeah,
and it's to me, right? Yes, some of these things, like let's take that for a second, and just freeze it here. Yes, that could be better as a compositing exercise. Right? You could really go to town and have that blend right in there, and it could look way better than that. But you get a whole lot of kudos, right? You make up for a whole lot of inexperience because your brain thinks that way. To me, as an employer, man, that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for that all the time. You collect people like that, and you never let them go. And
part of it is that the idea is what's going to sell that as well. That people love the idea. So
yeah, people have a connection to it. He's done a Avengers of Oz, which is an Avengers spin on the Wizard of Oz. But yeah, definitely check out his stuff. He's a visual effects and stupid shit artist and enthusiast.
That's perfect.
Darren Wallace. So definitely support Darren. But yeah, he's got some cool stuff there. I think he's going to go a long way.
Well, he already has gone a long way. He's got millions of views.
Well, yeah. I've never seen anything like it. And I cannot find a better example of exactly what I've been talking about the whole time, which is, man, you can jump into a whole new stratosphere by having a good idea. A simple, good, compelling idea executed well. It doesn't have to be, because the alternative is, and this is what I normally see, is a mediocre idea executed brilliantly. That just stands out because we live in a world where South Park exists.
Yeah.
You
just got to find some sort of meme, something that's popular, have a few beers, come up with something stupid and then do it, and then actually do it.
So how was that for a segue?
Oh, that was a perfect segue.
So the Mind-O-Mo. So am I right in thinking that the Ghostbusters 2016 Mind-O-Mo journey will be a single node on the Voyage, the Geek Mind-O-Mo?
I think it might turn out something like that. Who knows?
Yeah.
We won't know until we get there.
Yeah.
But it's certainly something that, like I said, there's a lot you can talk about, and you can probably watch this over a bit of time, especially as we progress over the weeks, and we just see whether it makes a lot of money or whether it doesn't make a lot of money.
The Mindomo mindset too. I've only used that sort of in the last year or so, and it's a really cool way to map out a lot of interlinking information and reference. And I reckon it's going to work really well.
Okay, so one of the things that I wanted to investigate was, is this a good movie or isn't it a good movie? Mm-hmm. It's certainly a polarizing movie.
It certainly is, yeah.
You got to either love it or you hate it. Well, actually, that's not entirely true.
No, to me, what I see is love it, love Ghostbusters, disappointed, or don't care.
Yeah.
I'm not hearing an argument for.
All right. Now, that's a really cool observation, because after watching many a review, I got the same opinion.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is why I put here, this node here is unpositive reviews.
Non-positive.
Unpositive
Absolutely
reviews.
not positive.
No. It's different from not positive.
Oh,
right?
okay.
It's unpositive reviews.
I know what you're talking about.
I'll give you an example, right?
Not positive is devoid of positiveness.
Yes.
Unpositive is distinctly negative.
No.
Oh, it's not
it's
negative.
even
so unpositive is not negative.
No. It's even more subtle than that.
Really?
And it's close to what you were saying just a second ago.
Yeah.
I'll give you an example and I'll paraphrase. I saw one review and it was done by a woman. Now, I don't know if she didn't seem to me like the sort of person who not understood, I don't want to be condescending, all right?
Yes.
But not the sort of person who was...
Sometimes you've got to call a cigar though.
Yeah, sometimes the cigar is actually your mother's penis, right?
Cool.
But she didn't seem like the person that understood nuances of narrative and character and all of those things, right? And you and I kind of like those things and we enjoy nerding out on those type of things. So to her, I imagine it was a bit of a popcorn flick, and she just went along, had some popcorn and watched the movie, and then she came out and she did the shopping and she went home and she thought she'd make a YouTube video about her experience.
Yeah.
All right. So this is an unpositive review.
Yeah.
So when she gets on camera, she says, so I went and saw Ghostbusters today and I really liked it. I thought it was really good. It was really funny. And I'm giving it a 6 out of 10. All right. And that was like her opening line. Now, the first point is really good, really and I liked it. And I'm giving it a 6 out of 10. Not an 8 out of 10, but a 6 out of 10.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then, and I burst out laughing when I watched her video. I just burst out laughing because she then went on, and I'll paraphrase her again. She then went on to say, I really liked it. It was really enjoyable. And I thought it was really funny. And I'm giving it a 6 out of 10. But I didn't laugh all the way through. And I didn't kind of like some of the characters. And the special effects are a bit weird.
Yeah.
And it went on too long.
So the 6 is now 4. And we're going south.
No. You've stolen my thunder, right? So she's did
she actually say, "Oh, I think I'll give her a 3"?
Yes, that's what I burst out laughing because she stopped in mid thought.
Yeah.
You know, she was like, "Yeah," and it was a bit too long. I didn't understand. I didn't like the characters. I'm changing my number.
Yeah.
I'm giving it a 4 out of 10.
God bless her. God bless her. That's the system that should exist.
Yes.
Self-policing.
That's right.
I love it. I love the fact that she came in at 6 immediately after. I thought it was good. You know, it was a good film and I enjoyed it. Yeah. I'm going to give it a 6. And it was definitive. Like it sounded like toggle on, toggle off.
Yeah, that's right.
Walk away.
Done deal.
And then, and by the way, and then it just all unraveled from that point. Was it a video?
Yeah, it was a video.
Well, you got to come with that sort of video next time because I've got to see that.
Look, to be honest, there's so many reviews. I tried to find it again. I couldn't. It was just...
It's gold.
Lost in the swathe. But I got some other ones here and some other examples. There's another one here. This guy. if we watch his video, and we'll start maybe having a look at a couple of these.
Yeah. No problems. We're at the hour mark, but it doesn't matter.
Maybe we should go on for just a little bit more.
No, we'll go on for as long as we need to go on, and then we'll work out what the show should be.
Now that's a not planned. That's an unplanned.
It's organic.
Yeah. Okay, so this is another example of what I'm talking about with an unpositive review.
Yeah.
This guy.
I still don't quite understand the difference between an unpositive review and a negative review.
Okay, well, we'll paint around the outsides, and you'll be able to see what an unpositive review looks like.
Okay.
So this is John Campea. Now, we'll only play just a couple of, just a few seconds of his thing, and I've hopefully got it time-stamped right at the point where I want. So the bit that we're missing is right at the start, when he says, I enjoyed it, it was good fun, and there was lots of this, and I thought it was a good movie. Now, you'll be able to see by the thumbs up and thumbs down as to what people's opinion of his opinion.
Of his opinion.
Yeah. But I'm going to come in at the unpositive turning point in his video.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll just see how this goes.
But it's not all sunshine and roses for Ghostbusters. I want to talk about the one big major problem with this film that made me end up coming out of Ghostbusters going, you know what? I liked Ghostbusters. I liked it. I had a good time. I laughed. But I would have come out of this movie loving this movie if it wasn't for this big, huge, glaring train bus wreck of a problem that kept happening every 15 minutes.
Every 15 minutes.
Cameos. I'm not talking about just when like Bill Murray does a cameo. We've known that forever. I'm not just talking about when Bill Murray comes walking in. I'm talking about, I swear to God,
spoiler,
15 freaking damn minutes in this movie.
Mr. Campea.
It's like the filmmakers and Ivan Reitman had to go.
Spoiler alert. Retroactive spoiler alert for anybody who's watching this movie. Watching this
they had to
podcast.
throw at us some sort of cameo, whether it was a cameo.
Okay. Now we don't need to see anymore because he goes on and on and on.
Yeah.
So the unpositive review is where somebody says, "I really liked it," and this is a classic example. Is that he actually, and to be fair to the guy, he says he likes the character, he thought it was funny, and he liked the story.
Yeah.
But the words that he uses to describe it is, "I like the story, I like the characters, I had fun with it, it was a good movie." But then when he gets to this part with the cameos, he says, "Every 15 freaking minutes." Right?
Yeah.
So you think about the positive stuff.
Yeah.
I like the story.
Yeah.
He wasn't like, the story was fucking amazing.
Yeah.
But the thing that he, so anyway, this is the unpositive review, right?
He is, you know who he is? I like John. John's cool.
Oh, you've seen him before,
yeah,
right?
Yeah, John's part of the Collider. I remember showing you some of the podcasts that I really like, that I really respect when we first started out, and we were looking at what direction we wanted to take it. Clearly, we didn't take it in their direction. They have the panel, and it's very professional, and they sort of have this panel where they review latest events and happenings in the world of our sort of world, with it, not so much game, but very film oriented, very pop and culture, deep into the culture and the lore and the comics and everything. And he's the host. I've got a feeling, I don't know, there's something about him that reads as if he's probably more than the host. He might be at the center of it. And they're the guys that do some really cool commentaries.
Okay.
Movie commentaries.
Okay.
And they film themselves watching some screen over there.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
So they've all got a microphone each, and they're actually recording themselves while they're watching Star Wars or whatever.
Okay.
And I think there's a time code or some way for you to sync up the movie so that you can watch the movie while you listen to their commentary. And their commentaries are really cool. The panel that makes up that show, that Collider. Let me bring it up and quickly show. Is there another? Do you want me to just quickly show you?
Yeah. Go for it.
Because I reckon they should be supported. I reckon they do a really cool job at they don't report on a lot of the sensational relationships of the Hollywood famous and shit. It's not entertainment. These guys are about tentpole movies. You know what I mean? It's the blockbuster stuff and there's just a bunch of really super geeky enthusiasts.
There's probably lots of subgenres in this review thing. There's some people that just report on the movie,
Yeah.
All right. And
Yeah.
they just tell you it's a story and there's some people in it and, and it starts at this time and then there's some stuff happens and then it ends. And they don't really give any opinion whatsoever. They just say that this is a movie.
Yeah.
Then there's other people who give their opinion about it. And there's probably loads of other subgenres in there as well, actually, of ways in which people report back on these movies. Okay, go ahead.
This is Collider. And for me, it's almost like, I don't know, from an outsider, largely as an audience member for these guys, I recognise that they're sort of a conglomerate of web shows. They might be on a cable network. I'm not too sure. There's Collider. There's the Schmoes Knows. Have you ever heard it?
No.
KNOWS, Schmoes Knows.
No. Right. Okay. No.
These guys, they're all interlinked. And what you're doing is you're looking at a stable of guys and gals, super geeky, enthusiasts, tentpole, pop. They're really deep into the culture, the comic scene, and the whole thing across the board. And what they do is they all sort of have their own little shows, and maybe they run them out of the one warehouse
Depends
sort
how
of
big they are.
complex or not.
There's probably a network behind them.
Yeah. So let me
part of some group.
Let me quickly. I'll throw up their regular sort of panel show. This was one of the ones that we were going to look at. For its quality and its presentation, usually has some sort of better than average looking presenter type female entity that introduces these guys.
Okay.
And she introduces the topics and does the talk, the mailbag and things like that. He's the other guy. He's from the Schmoes Knows guys, and it looks like our mate John is not in this episode. But yeah, the guy that you showed before, he's normally the host, not the. You might be able to see it here. So yeah, this is their theme music.
Hey guys, welcome to Collider Movie Talk for movie fans. I'm your host.
It's the old
Ashley
work
Moga,
down
and
the
this is
topics
Daily Show where we
on
give
the
you all
side.
latest news
But
from the world of movies.
if we just freeze that and have a look, the topics are Star Wars Episode 8, Kong, Fantastic Beasts, Star Trek 4, Indiana Jones, Blade Runner 2. You know what I mean?
Blade Runner 2.
Oh yeah, don't you know?
Oh shit.
Yeah, Uncle Ridley's shooting it in Sydney. Or, shooting it in Sydney.
I didn't know Blade Runner 2.
As far as I'm aware. He's doing the new Alien Prometheus prequel, whatever, the next thing in the world, in the anthology. That's being shot in Sydney. That's why Animal Logic is hiring all these humans. There's a whole lot coming out of Sydney.
I don't know how I feel about Blade Runner 2, Dave.
I know how I feel about Blade Runner 2, Dan. To me, that's equivalent to Elvis 2.0, isn't it?
I suppose the good thing is that it's Ridley Scott doing it, who surely lessens the chance of a major fuck up by some amount.
Yeah.
And as we were saying before, he probably knows what we. Well, look.
Well, some people think he fucked up the Prometheus.
I withdraw that comment because a flash of George Lucas zapped across my mind, and I was like, shit.
And he didn't do a crazy good job on the Robin Hood retelling with Russell Crowe and.
No, I didn't see that.
That was a Ridley Scott.
Yeah, I saw the Prometheus, which I thought was a bit of a mess.
It didn't bring me into it.
No.
I never felt like I was in the story.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
The visuals are pretty cool. There's some great visual stuff going on.
See,
I love that laser scanning thing with the robots over time scanning the inside of the tombs and everything.
That's unfortunately one of the things about visual effects I think, although it's lots of hard work and it takes lots of skill and there's lots of practice, but in some way, somehow, by some magical science fiction techno-babble, it manages to usually do a pretty damn good job.
Yeah.
Whereas the story and the characters, and I think we've had this discussion before, even though older, more established discipline somehow still is got a 50-50 chance of
Yeah.
having a major screw up.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You've got to. I started following directors at a very young age while my mates were into Arnie movies and Sly movies.
Arnie
and
movies, best movies.
Do you know what I mean? Like they'd follow actors. Some
Yeah.
people are Tom Hanks people, you know, and some people are Tom Cruise people, although less all the time, which is unfounded, I think, if you just watch the movie. He's brilliant. He's a brilliant actor. Come out from behind that facade into the real world, and he's a prick. Like he's a madman.
Yes.
He's very smart.
He's got a new bunch of fans. It's just that they're all part of his cult.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
actual cult, I think.
But yeah. Where was I heading with it? Where the hell was I heading with that?
I don't know.
Yeah. No. I'll have to review the tapes to work out what the hell my thought process was there.
We'll come back to it next week with a vengeance.
I was brought back to Tom Cruise with Jack Reacher, with the Jack Reacher movie that he did recently, which is Jack Reacher is a fictitious character in a very successful line of novels.
Oh.
A sort of modern day maybe. I'm probably getting it wildly wrong, but some ex-government trained specialist, and now he just sort of cruises around. Not quite PI. He's not. He's definitely not Magnum PI, but he's, which coincidentally is exactly ex-military. He was a Navy SEAL.
That's right.
And
Yeah,
all this
yeah.
shit.
I remember that.
It's amazing what the '80s will do. What's amazing what the '80s will do to a perfectly good concept. But yeah, Tom Cruise in this Jack Reacher.
I'm sure there's somebody with a list somewhere that's got Magnum PI, the movie.
Do you reckon?
Oh, it's got to be.
I reckon it'd be Ben Stiller. You know he'd do it. He's done Starsky and Hutch.
Yeah. Yeah. He'd have the mustache, the mustaka.
You know he'd do it.
And everything.
If this will get back to him. It might be 4 years from now. We're now second person sees that channel, but it'll get back to him, and we will see Magnum PI. Yeah, it's funny. Not only
I'd like to see Magnum PI again. I used to
Same
watch
here.
that fairly religiously.
Same
I thought
here.
that was the coolest thing ever.
Nowadays he'd be driving a Ducati, right? That's
I was
the
thinking
elite.
that his Ferrari. It was a Ferrari, wasn't it?
It's Ferrari, but Ferrari's become so.
It would have been
yesterday.
dated. Yeah, it would look a bit boxy and meh nowadays.
Maybe a Tesla now. It'd probably be a Tesla. Tesla's worth more than the price of the parts
the Rockford
because
Files?
you can't get them.
The Rockford Files.
I love it.
I used to love the Rockford Files.
I love the way he just sort of lived in a car park.
Yeah.
And the show always started with someone knocking on his caravan door.
Yeah.
It's like, let's just set a series around this bum.
Yeah, pretty much.
You know, that he can never afford anything. He's always bitching about money. No one ever pays him. He's forever getting beaten up.
Yeah, that's right. He was.
Yeah, he was the world's worst private eye. That only in the last sort of section of the series of the episode would he actually solve the case. Not before getting beaten from pillar to post. His caravan has blown up so many times.
Yeah. You're bringing back so many memories, man. Yeah.
He used to drive around that shitty brown 2-door T-top Datsun 300 or whatever it was. It was a laugh, man. I loved it. I love that television. The guy that created that series was Larson, Glenn A. Larson, who went on to create all sorts of shit. There's TV
this is
moguls.
one for our mind map, right? We have to put in the Rockford Files, and we have to go and trace where that came from and who did it and who made it and what they did next.
Yeah. And
or before.
That's where I started with my point before. Directors. I followed directors at a young age. I realised that the person in charge, if you like what they do, if you like the product, follow the person in charge.
Yep.
Yeah.
And you get more of the same.
Yeah, because I realised that you get bad Arnie movies, you get good Arnie movies, you get bad Sylvester Stallone movies. You know, we're talking the 80s. What's the common... How do I track what I should be excited about? it was the directors. And I started following Spielberg and Cameron and...
What's the common denominator?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's too right. Yeah, 80s, man. Best time for movies. Best movies.
We can spend... I think we should probably spend a whole episode on just having a look at where we've come from. What I would like to do, and I'm going to bring it in, and if it's not in our next outing, it'll be the very next one after that.
Mm-hmm.
I want to show you... There's some pivotal moments in the 80s where digital art could have gone horribly wrong, but instead went incredibly right.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll just to give you a taste test, the movie The Last Starfighter.
Oh, what an awesome movie.
What an incredible film.
I think at the same time as watching that movie, I was putting 20 sensors into the Galaxian and the Space Invaders down the shops.
So you could save the universe by simply playing the arcade machine down the local shop.
Yeah.
So of course we were down playing the local, because the aliens are going to come in any moment and take me away, and I'll be the hero of the galaxy.
But what a perfect movie to just cash in on all of that. Well, not cash in, but like, that sounds a bit negative, but to like be...
Well, it's cross promotion.
Yeah, but tapping into the sort of vibe, the vibe that was
happening of the time.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely. And it was sci-fi, but it was rooted in a caravan park in the middle of nowhere. It's like, who comes up with that fucking idea? The guy's going to save the universe, but he starts the journey in a caravan park in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
And he's not even the highest life form in the caravan park in the middle of nowhere. You know, he's just so Joe Ordinary.
Yeah.
It's a great film, but for me, it's the technical achievement that happened in it. Man, the rendering achievements. It was the first time we saw full CG shots of spaceships and stars and space and asteroids and that whole sequence where it chases a bad guy through inside the asteroid and the whole thing is lit only by the spaceship.
We have to do...
That was so wild, man. All digital.
We have to do an episode on that and look at the VFX.
Yeah.
You know, and we have to put it up against Tron as well, the original Tron, because that's another pivotal moment.
Tron, for me... the thing that I love the most about the story of Tron is, well, I don't love it, but I find fascinating and compelling, is at the time it was perceived by the industry as not a film. It wasn't a film.
Mm-hmm.
It was breaking all sorts of records, but they refused to allow it to be nominated for any kind of award because they saw it as cheating.
Well, it's the same thing that happens with the birth of photography.
It's protectionism.
Yeah. You know, you got all the oil painters that
they're looking at it going, holy shit, they made all that. And how many people were involved? 20. 20. What? Not 2,000?
Yeah, that's right.
No catering trucks, no, Teamsters Union.
That's right. Back in my day.
They shit themselves, and they tried to keep them out. They also tried to keep Lucas out, I think, for a different cause. For under a different guise, but I think the same sort of thing where they saw the writing on the wall. Lots of traditionalists were around in that time because you're talking about the tail end of the studio's model, families, famous families clinging to this industry. Around about the 70s, late 70s, early 80s, we started to see the corporates come in, corporations come in, buy up these studios. And there was a change of crew, but early on, man, in those 80s, that was the turning point of the new coming in and the old holding on for grim life, for grim. They didn't like the digital thing marching towards them.
Yeah, and I don't know, and I suppose that trend has just continued with like the internet coming in and broadcasting via digital means, your own personal digital means. Like what we're doing here, rather than having to, own factories and retail outlets across the globe to be able to do it.
Yeah.
You can just do it.
We don't require any sponsorship.
That's right.
There's no moving parts.
Yeah.
We're doing it from the comfort of our own studio, and we don't answer to anyone.
That's right. We can choose our own damn whiskey.
That's it. And we're not offending anybody by just drinking it.
Yes,
you know what I mean? We may offend many people by what we say.
Hopefully.
But only in relation to the world that is geek. Politics, sometimes they might creep in. So that's probably the show.
So you can see here, we probably got through one node on this little mind map thing.
Yeah. Well, for now, and then that node starts to actually flush out into more and more information as we start to plug more stuff into it.
That's right.
It starts as a simple island, I guess, and then as we keep talking about new subjects and and we want to bring guests on, I guess, too, which is another thing that's important to us. More and more information comes into it. We're going to plug it in, and you'll find that the spider webs all interweave and connect. And I reckon I'm so looking forward to it. What I'm really looking forward to it is taking all the data and plugging it into a 3D representation with V-Ray lighting and everything. You know what I mean? That we can sort of animate our way around it, and then finally we would be where Jurassic Park took us so many times ago. Remember the node-based stuff that was going on in Jurassic Park on the computers?
So you want to see like Smarlin's channel, but riding the Tron network that we're building here.
Absolutely.
All right, I'm on board.
Cool, man. Well, that's it for us. We're going to sign off. We're going to be here every Sunday, Australian Eastern Standard, 7 o'clock-ish. We'll give you plenty of heads up if we're not. And this is the sort of drivel that you can expect. Feel free to email us at the moment we're voyageofthegeek@gmail.com, and eventually we will be Dan at voyageofthegeek.com and Dave at voyageofthegeek.com. And of course, we're going to have a website. We've got that in the works, and currently you can go and leave stuff on Twitter and all the rest of it. But yeah, we'll bring all this social aspect to it as we learn to wrangle it as a couple of windswept and interesting elder gentlemen coming into the space. But we want to reach the kids, Dan.
That's right. That's where they're at. That's where it's at.
We want to save them the misfortune of having to make all of our mistakes all over again by telling them some of the wisdom we've learned along the way, and also sharing some cool shit that we come across in our day-to-day lives. And feel free to let us know positives, negatives, subscribe, thumbs up, all those sorts of things, and join us on the journey that is the Voyage of the Geek. Ciao for now.